Computer Security and Penetration Testing. This is your core course, which is CIT 225, and we are starting chapter number 1 called Ethics of Hacking and Cracking. Now, just a disclaimer, this is an educational course. We are not teaching any tactics to harm any enterprise or organization, so you are solely responsible for your own actions. We'll just cover some of the topics for educational purpose. First of all, objectives. Understand how the act of unethical computer hacking is a crime. They are saying unethical computer hacking because there is ethical hacking as well. We'll be covering it. We call it red hat or white hat or black hat hackers and stuff like that. So when you are testing the environment, your own organization, and you want to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities and your system won't be compromised, that's a ethical hacking, because you are officially entitled to do that in your own organization. Okay, you don't penetrate in the other organization, so you must know all the tools and techniques in order to understand that what someone else would be doing in order to harm your infrastructure. Classify and identify the groups and classes of hackers, as I told you, then distinguish the rationale for various type of hackers. What are they capable of and what do they do usually? Understand and determine differences in information warfare. Nowadays, it's all about information. Anything which is there stored on your computers, whether it's an organization or a business, is very important for any organization. Understand how computer hacking originated and its evolution. Just a basic history about the hacking and stuff, and recognize the importance of ethical hacking and the issues involved in hacker ethics. So even if you are doing a penetration testing within your organization, there will be set rules that you will be asked to write all the tools and the techniques you have used in order to penetrate in your own organization. The reason is that once you do that, sometimes there is a requirement to revert whatever you did. So they must have a clear knowledge about what you are doing. In some organizations, they hire companies who come from outside and they conduct penetration testing in your organization. They are registered companies. Professionals which are dedicated for this purpose, who will come, who will do the penetration testing in your organization, tell you about the vulnerabilities which are there in your organization, and then they'll give you a complete report, including all the tools and techniques that they have used when they were conducting this penetration testing. Now, if an outside company comes in and they are conducting an penetration testing in your organization, still your information security department or the individuals from your information security department will be keeping an eye on, just to make sure that whatever you are doing as a ethical hacker or a penetration tester, you are not stealing any confidential information out of the systems. Usually the companies who are conducting these kind of services or who are providing these kind of services are quite known in the market. So you don't need to worry much about if they'll be doing something, but still you'll have to make sure or keep an eye that what they are doing. The impact of unethical hacking. So first let's understand what is unethical hacking. For example, computer cracking. Someone would try to gain access to your machine without your knowledge or without your consent. Would try to steal some data out of your computer, maybe for fun, maybe using some scripts. We call them script kiddies. Using any malicious code just to compromise the security of your computer. Terms for illegally hacking into a computer system without the permission of the system's owner. Despite the motivations of computer crackers, cracking a system is a crime. Whenever someone tries to penetrate or tries to compromise the security of your system, your network, or your devices without your consent is a crime globally. Wherever you'll go, it is considered crime because you must inform the other person that you are going to penetrate in the machines. Now, the question arises that what about the information security department in the organizations? As I told you, the network administrators or the security guys or network administrator are the god of the networks. They can penetrate in any machine, in any computer, because they are the domain admins most of the time, and they have the credentials to access your machines from anywhere within an organization. But for them, once you issue the computers or you issue the computer accounts, you ask them to sign an undertaking. And in that undertaking is clearly mentioned that your PCs, internet, and email would be solely used for official purposes only. And you won't be doing anything other than official purposes on those computers. But still, as part of the ethical requirements, if you are conducting some tests, you inform the users that we are doing it from time to time basis. Hacker communities, two ways commonly used to categorize the hackers, which are white hat good hackers versus black hat bad hackers. So they has distinguished them with white and black. White is always considered as good, black is always considered as bad, as you might have seen in the movies. Now, based loosely on psychological profiling of the users, you distinguish them based on their activities. Sometimes black hat hackers convert into white hat hackers, because at any point, whenever a hacker starts his journey, he starts with disruption. That's how you learn. Then once they have all those skills and they want to help the organizations in conducting these kind of tests on their networks, they convert themselves as white hat hackers, or they join the communities which are conducting these kind of tests. Now, Microsoft and other organizations, whenever they are going to release a major software or a major release of an operating system, they present their software to these communities to penetrate. Now, if they'll find any vulnerabilities, they will be identified well before it would hit the market. So before the official release, they'll release it to the communities to penetrate and find the vulnerabilities in the systems. Hat categories: white hat, black hat model. White hat represent the good guys, whereas the black hat represents the bad guys. Everything the good guys do is right, legal, and justified, because you have exposed yourself or you have informed the authorities that you are the guys who will be doing these things, and your intention is not to harm the community or the systems, or not to disrupt the services. Thus, whatever you will be doing would be in benefit to the organization. Whereas the gray hat hackers evidence that the dichotomy of good and evil is not a very good fit to the real world. They could be good, they could be bad. Just like we say that there is a gray area, I am not sure whether you are good or bad. It depends on the mood. If I'm in a good mood, I'll be a white hat. If I'm in a bad mood, I'll be a black hat. But if you're playing somewhere in the middle, like a gray hat, you cannot be trusted at any point of time. Because these kind of guys, as they were saying that there is a psychological profiling of it, they are greedy for money. If someone would offer them a bigger bait, they'll go for that. Some hackers, what they do, that they would try to find the vulnerabilities in your organization, they know that you have not applied the latest patches and stuff like that, and then they'll tell you that if you'll not pay us this much, we'll penetrate in your systems. And this is a sample that the data we have collected from your systems. And of course, if you'll see that they actually have the data which you are claiming that you have access to their systems, they end up paying them, and then they help them that how to close those loopholes. Whereas the other hackers, which are the white hat hackers, they just come in the organization, whether within the organization or from outside, which are outsourced, and they'll simply tell you that you must fix these things as preventive measures. You must avoid the problem before it happens. That's what ethical hackers do. Now we have some categories here. They are defining about hat categories: white hat hackers, gray hat hackers, and then black hat hackers. Learning new things, which is a main motive of a white hat hacker, is learning new things, protecting the network in charge for intrusion, damage, maintaining status, work with official sanctions from official organizations. All good things, good guys, nothing to worry about, nothing to be afraid of, but they are capable to identify if someone is trying to penetrate in the network. Gray hat hackers, they work for fame, as I told you. Greedy people, they look for money, though the organizations pay them heavily if they are ethical hackers, but they want to work on both sides. Work with good guys, get money from there, work for organizations for fame, or to cheat other peoples that if you will not do this or threaten them, we'll do these activities. Credit for solving, that give us money, we'll solve your problem. Otherwise, we will penetrate. Challenging network puzzles, they'll find that what are the weaknesses on the network, more interested in damage than pillage. That they won't be building it, they'll be destroying it mostly. Hacktivists who deface websites, networks, targets, evil doers, for example, corporations involved in for trading, tobacco sales, abortion, and part of the groups. Different negative illegal activities involved mostly in that. Now the black hat hackers, they take money, cash, payments, injury to others, may steal trade secrets, credit card numbers, customer lists, employee lists. They want whatever information they can find, they will generate a profit on that. They work with unofficial sanctions from official and unofficial organizations. What do you mean by that? They work with official sanctions from official and unofficial organizations. They work for official and unofficial organizations because there are groups of unofficial organizations as well. So sometimes companies, organizations, or countries would be hiring these guys to penetrate network of another country. If there is a rivalry between two states, one state would fund the black hat hackers to penetrate on the network of another country. And then they get all that information just to get the details about the users, their social security numbers, their social profiling, their medical records, their credit card numbers, their salaries, and all that information which would be used later. Now, hacker profiling. Hacking requires that the practitioner be intimately familiar with the techniques of the perpetrator or opponent. So they must be completely aware of what you are running in your organization. In next chapters, we'll be talking about reconnaissance. And in that, we have active reconnaissance and we have a passive reconnaissance. So they are talking about at the moment as passive reconnaissance. where you identify what's there in the system and how do you find the information. Reading and techniques used by other ethical and malicious hackers are identical, because the tools and the techniques that you use in order to penetrate in any network is almost the same. Profile of hacker is multi-phase. Now, the reason is that there are different kind of hackers who are looking for different kind of information. Some are really good into programming. They'll use Perl language, they'll use C#, they'll be using Python, they'll be using ASP.NET, they'll write their own scripts, and they'll just execute them as zombies. They'll install zombies on your machines, which would be controlling the entire network later on their commands. They'll be sitting idle. Maybe the zombie would be installed on the machine and it would be sitting idle waiting for the instructions from the master. Once they'll receive the instructions, they'll execute. You might have heard of ransomware. That's the same thing. Now, Black Hat Briefings Convention highlights breaking security research submitted by leading corporate professionals, government experts, and members of the underground hacking community. So they steal the secrets. Example is, if BMW is coming up with a new design of their car. Now these hackers, what they would do is they'll penetrate in the systems of the designers and they'll steal the diagrams or the pictures of the upcoming design. And then they'll contact the competitors that we have the latest design of the upcoming release of the latest model from BMW. So we'll sell you out if you'll give us this much money. You wonder why you see some cars which are quite similar to the other ones, that the design is very much copied from the original. It happens. It goes for the technology from the mobile phones to cars to manufacturers, for TV manufacturers to watches, you name it. So there are some guys who are working on research and development, whereas other guys who are trying to get all that information from those other areas, and then they'll be working on it. Now, leading corporation professionals, government and experts, members of the hacking community, and these are different hacking profiles that they have. Now, voices, which are the new guys in the market who are just trying to learn this stuff. Limited computers and programming skills, rely on toolkits to conduct their attacks. Then we have cyberpunks, which are capable of writing their own software. Very smart. They can write their own softwares, have an understanding of the systems they are attacking, complete knowledge. Before you launch an attack against any system, you must have a complete knowledge about it. Many of the engaged in credit card numbers and telecommunication frauds have tendency to brag about their exploits. Then you have internals, distinguished employees or ex-employees who would try to harm the organization. For example, a person left your organization with a very bad mood, or he was fired based on his activities. Later, they would try to compromise the system of the companies because they were working in that organization and they know that what are the weaknesses of the system. Then there are petty thieves that include employees, contractors, consultants, etc., who will be motivated by greed or need to pay off habits such as drugs or gambling, etc. For basic things, they'll be harming the systems. Then we have old guard hackers, appear to have no criminal intent. Their records are clear, so they cannot be identified easily. Alarming disrespect or personal property, appear to be interested in the intellectual endeavor. Then we have coders, act as mentors to newbies. They are the guys who are writing the scripts, mostly. Write scripts and tools that others use. So they'll be the ones behind developing the scripts or the codes to penetrate in the systems. But the person who's writing a code or a script to penetrate in a system must be intelligent enough to understand the complete infrastructure. Now, motivated by sense of power and prestige, then we have professional criminals specialized in corporate espionage, guns for hire, and highly motivated, highly trained, and have access to state-of-the-art equipment. Professional criminals are usually hired by states to conduct different offensive against other states. Information warriors, cyber terrorists, increase in activity since the fall of the many Eastern Bloc intelligence agencies, well-funded, mixed political with criminal activities and political activities. 100% funded, ran by the big agencies globally who are famous for their activities. Now, hacktivists are work to eradicate or damage entitles or causes they perceive to be evil and engage in the hacktivism. Now, hacker motivations is curiosity. You just want to see what's going on in the other organizations. Love of puzzles, how to solve it. You have lots of securities implemented in your organization. Let's play with them. Let's try to find the weaknesses in them. Desire for recognition or fame. It would be written that it was penetrated, our system was penetrated by this hacking group. They'll leave their footprint over there so that it would be in the news and everywhere, and it would be well known that this group actually penetrated in their organization. Sometimes they do it for revenge, just to flush out their own anger towards an organization or an institution, or for financial gain. Easy money. Just work on disrupting the services and ask money. Patriotism or politics is also involved whenever hacking activities comes in across. Now, ethical hacking. Ethics are the principles of conduct that govern individual, groups, or professionals. Without a published code of ethics, it is difficult to gain public trust for a profession. Network security is emerging from a chaotic set of conflicting ethics. Lots of ethical things are involved and practices which we must follow in order to make sure that whatever we are doing is not illegal by any means. Separating the ethical hackers from the unethical hackers will allow security professionals to present the benefit of their profession. Of course, you won't let a person in the organization who is involved into criminal activities. That's why some of the areas are there in information security as well, that before you hire them, you get a security clearance of those guys, just to make sure that they were not involved in any kind of illegal activities. Now, evolution of hacking is the modern concept of hacking began in the late 1950s. When we started seeing the new technologies and things which were coming, students at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology started using their access to MIT mainframe to work on new languages. Mainframe computers were the main data centers where it was a one big huge computer equal to the size of a room only, and they were computing and processing lots of things over it. First password hacks were a response to the compatible time sharing system developed in early 1960s. In 1970, phone freaks used the phreaking to access the telephone networks to make free calls from the payphones. It was a luxury at that time, quite expensive. So they penetrated in those PBX exchanges and just to make free calls. Now, wire dialers were developed to search the open modems. Long time ago, when we used to connect to the internet, we used modems. So they penetrated in the modems. Personal computer prices dropped and users became more common. So there were more computers in the market. Hacker communities also grew when they saw that new technologies are coming and people were there who penetrated in the telephone exchanges and things. Now they started working on teams and groups which can penetrate on those networks. Viruses, worms, and Trojans started appearing in 1988. Now they saw that, okay, now Microsoft has started releasing the Windows. Now let's play around with the latest operating systems. Antisocial actions of crackers and script kiddies made it difficult to defend the original concept of hacking, because they were coming up with programming languages which were compatible and were working with the computers 100% fine. Where they gained access to the systems, they found the vulnerabilities and they attacked them. Computer hackers describe the computer expert with malicious intent. Now, you know, when operating system Windows 2.1 and then 3.1 was released, at that time there was no concept of Windows Update live from the internet, because internet was quite expensive and it wasn't easy to get it on these machines at that time. So there were no update patches or anything. If an operating system is released with some vulnerabilities, it would remain like that unless and until you'll purchase the latest operating system and install it in your organization. So that's what they were doing. They found out that a company is using an older operating system and they targeted it. Vendor neutral security certifications. There are lots of certifications as far as the information security is concerned. CompTIA Security Plus certification, then Global Information Assurance, this is GIAC, Security Administration certifications, then ISAC 2, then ISAC again 2 square, and SSCP examination. Nowadays, what I have seen, most of the people are interested in CompTIA Security Plus certification. Now we have CAP examination, CISSP concentrations, and EC Council certifications. Depends on the users and what they are actually trying to do. Vendor specific security certifications, there are almost as many vendor specific certifications as there, like for Cisco, Microsoft, CompTIA, they have different certifications for their own. Like for Microsoft, certified system engineer or application programmer and stuff like that. So every vendor release their own specific certifications. Now the protection of the data is provided to the organization or stored on a personal computer is a high priority. We don't care about the computers in the organizations. Our main focus is how to protect the data. We can format the machine if it's infected with virus or anything, but the data is the most important thing. It must not leave the organization or unless and until if you are aware of it. Some crackers break into systems to utilize what they consider wasted computer energy. Using bandwidth without permission may seem harmless, but it's a crime in addition to being unethical. You penetrate in the wireless network of your neighbor. Of course, you are penetrating it for a gain. You don't want to do certain things on your Wi-Fi network, but you would penetrate into his Wi-Fi network to do all those malicious activities using his account. So, penetration without informing or using an internet connection of someone else is an illegal activity. Many hackers find it tempting to copy, download, or use proprietary softwares and other copyrighted works, like downloading pirated software. Fun, right? But illegal. When Microsoft is providing you an operating system at a very low cost as a student, there is no point of downloading the cracked softwares or trying to crack the softwares. Same goes for antivirus solutions and other softwares which we use on daily basis. Ethical issues of hacking. Professional hackers have a responsibility to society. Their activities should help to build and improve upon existing technology, whatever they are using, to improve them. If they found any vulnerabilities, it's your ethical duty to inform the vendor of that software that I found these weaknesses in the system and it could compromise the organization's security if they are using your software. They should use their skills and interests as opportunities to learn and teach. Ethical hackers, security professionals who applies his or her hacking skills for defensive purposes only. Now, some companies prefer to pay an ethical hacker to discover their system weaknesses and security gaps. It's called bug bounty. So they'll announce that if you will find this bug bounty, if you'll find a vulnerability in our system, you'll find a bug bounty, and usually it is quite heavy. That if you'll penetrate in their systems, they'll pay you for that. Ethical hackers work to protect all areas of information technology, and hackers must have experience on the softwares, engineering, networks, and the system security. That brings us to the end of chapter number 1, which talks about the basic stuff about what are hackers, what is ethical hacking, what are gray hat hackers, what are black hat hackers, and what are white hat hackers.